Now I would like to call somebody who's very familiar with the culture of Carolina Beach, especially the motel culture of Carolina Beach, and who is a great young poet himself, and it's Stephen Vineis. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yeah,
Vineis. Yes. Round of applause.
This first one's called Halfway, and it's about nothing, so there you go. All right. There's an estate sale this afternoon, past where they paint the houses. Navigating along the tables, I step over a pair of sleeping dogs. I note corners where Russ sleeps in a red lock sitting atop a latchless toolbox. There's talk among the patrons of strange ancestries spared the burden of living, memories smoking, gin blurring the edges, maps drawn on the breath-moist glass of picture frames with crudely glued flakes of shell and coal affixed to the corners. A painting of the teeth of a skyline and a pale red tongue curling through coughs of clouds on the horizon sits over the dresser. The top drawer hangs open, filled with various buttons and a Bowie knife with a taped handle. There's a widow and a man with a large white head talking low about the best way to cook a little lamb. A boy pulls at my shirt from behind and asks how much for the outfit. This isn't my house. He regards me as if I'll begin to glow with another tap. Are you sure? The first strand of tie light ushers us out into the yard where we step quickly between pale circles of light back to the cars. I purchase a cigar box full of magazine subscription stubs filled in with foreign names and a half dozen expired AAA cards, the old ones that are laminated paper instead of hard plastic. I leave the box outside on the porch hoping the wind will rid it of the stink of old. In the morning I see that it has been stolen. Somewhere across town or down the street, a man sits on an oval rug on the floor of his bathroom. The cigar box is the collective grave for all the wounded and dead plastic men after they fall in battle on the edge of the sink or off the toilet bowl lid. And in that little space where he makes war sounds with his mouth, the silence that surrounds his demands is as empty as it is real. So, since I'm here, I'd just like to say that all these poets tonight have been picked very well because it shows a nice cross-section of style, and the fact that there's an audience here to listen to it is great, and if you're enjoying yourself, that's even greater, and if you're enjoying me the most, that's the best you can do. So, alright, this one's called Banzai, and it's about I got a gift from an old girlfriend. It was a bonsai tree, and I had it for much longer than I needed to, because every time I looked at it, I was like, fuck! So I threw it away.
Was she an old girlfriend or an old girlfriend?
No, she was the one that really hurt.
Oh.
Yeah, say aw, please.
Was she 72?
Huh?
Was she pretty old?
No. What's that even mean? Do I look like I go for older women?
Yes.
Cruising at the nursing home, like, woohoo! Come on, Grandma. Show me what them gums can do. All right.
All right. Just read the phone.
All right, just okay. All right, so it's called Banzai. All right. Like a joke that wasn't funny the first time, or the fame that results from a good showing on a game show, I am preoccupied this morning by the candlelight glow of an overcast day. If it was a picture, nothing could distinguish these woods from a painting of the West circa 1860. The bones out there and the rats and the cold are at very least the bottle caps. The porch oak is ground soft, worn out after years of fisticuffs with shoe leather, and the weight of trash cans filled with ice whenever we had parties. And we always had parties with dancing and merriment and all that shit, to celebrate every lowbrow victory in the Civil War between the American and National Leagues. I never did hammer down the nail that was stuck up just enough to pierce Jen's heel. I remember knocking over the bonsai tree and its ceramic base when I reached for the phone. You got on your knees with the short broom and swept the dirt and shorn thread-like leaves into your palm, while I talked to an emergency operator with the same regard I'd give a bartender with his hand outstretched for a tip after just punching out the foam mouth on a warm can of beer. The dramatic context of the ambulance lights made me remark that tonight ended up something like a funeral, and you agreed, still angry about the bonsai tree. One by one, the party told out, the calm broken by the paramedics' rushed sense of duty. And alone I was on my knees with a sad flashlight, searching for the carved redwood Buddha that used to sit under the Banzai, so stoic and peaceful despite the 24/7 melee that was summer 2008. I never found the Buddha or the gold, and when you took the dog, I never saw a bone again without him. I've got about a dozen of the bottle caps, but little left to do, so I spread them out on the end table in the bedroom. And I put a couple in a can for a makeshift maraca. And I stacked a couple as best I could, but I threw most of them away, like you always said I should. This is called Natural Origins. I've run out of ways to report the sky, to make it seem like something more than it is. A powder blue stare, solemn witness to an earth which carries on such stale affairs. Eyes closed, moisture mixing with the grit and sand over stripped and aching bones. Sweat collects on flesh and in leg and finger folds as the glow reflects in the dome light of midnight. An orbit briefly stalled like a truck on the roadside. I almost found religion in our pocket of that dust cloak, hesitant to record the patterns our body left in the dust as landmarks for the day I first understood the difference between what stars really are and what they could be. The lit shafts tell secrets of space with an unsteady voice reserved for prayers, answered by the turning of engines and a lullaby of shallow breathing, shared with pauses in the silence. All right, so I'm guessing everyone's got a drink or a fist, so put it in the air right now. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you sign a petition or anything. All right, this is a toast to a friend of mine that's no longer with us, Robert Cortez Bowen III, known affectionately as Corey. This is for him. So to Corey.
Corey.
If you knew him, you'll understand. If you don't know him, you never knew him, I'm actually very sorry for you guys because you missed out. Thanks. All right, so it's called Mayday. A yawning light appears outside and begs us to come and make better sense of the world and how it goes. The news broke like a fever, and the days bent at their corners like shoulders slumped from the weight of burdening on their way. Our collective blackout coincided with the last cold before spring and the curtain closing on our younger years. With a breath so bare, we spoke of times in the garage, waiting for the first gesture of summer. How we lied about almost getting laid by prom queens or awards received in secret ceremonies, applauded for simply being as we were. So scared of what was to come and so lost in the concept that life is when you're barely 19. When I feel the wind pick up in the yard and it carries the ball I throw for the dog up and over the fence to where neither of us can reach, I don't think it's him fucking with me. I'm not a child anymore, swayed by the notion that we'll live on as something new, or that we were ever invincible. The time between his dates was the shortest in the paper that day, and it got me thinking about the time between other things, building and burning, bending and breaking. I envy people who can believe in God when I hear a convincing case for hiding from monsters under your bed with the sheets pulled up over your head. Between the mountains and the coast, something passes with a chain behind it, leaving a scratch in the dusty flatlands. And between now and then, something passes with a grin when it thinks of what could have been had a boy become a man. I have friends who celebrate him the only way they know how, making a mess of themselves with SoCo and Coke and a dim kitchenette where we used to play cards. He went all in on the first hand before a face showed, and we played on while he watched, winking over us when we should bluff or when we should fold. And we kept the game up well into the morning until one by one we got busted out. We each moved over to the couch, lamenting the loss of ours. And Corey would pour us a drink and ask how we did, and we'd reply, better than you. And he'd pet the cat, staring off into space, and say through a smile, remember, you lost too. With our heads hung in defeat, sucking at some shit in a cheap bottle we grow to love, we choke down the sour and toast the sweet in honor of our future, or lack thereof. For Corey.